Now, there's going to be some plugins in this that you guys don't have, but that doesn't matter. It's the concepts. So I'll play a little bit of this track. This is called Same As It Ever Was. This is another one from my Straight Up project. This one's a little bit more of a world beat, and I'll talk about how this was created after we listen to it. We'll listen to some of it. Okay, you get the general idea, right? So let's do a quick, I'll talk about several things, but let's do a quick breakdown of how the session is set up. So I've got this all color coded. So these are my drums, drum kit. You notice they're all this tealish kind of color. And then I've got percussion, are these purple guys. And then I've got ethnic mallets and other things here. They're all this bluish color. All right, bass is purple, this color here. And then my guitars are this pinkish red. Piano is this darker bluish, purplish color. And then the flute is this right here. And then these are orchestral things here, right? I guess the Glock should be the same color as the choir. There's a processed vocal sound here, which I'll play for you, which I did some really wild sound design stuff too. And then this is the Music Master, which is an AUX track that all the music is routed to, and it's got all the mastering chain on it. And this is my master. And notice we do the fade out on the master. And you'll notice that we are filled with markers / memory locations for easy navigation. So the intro is dot 1 dot. If I wanted to go to verse 2 dot 2 or verse 1 dot 2 dot, 23, it's right there. If I went to the guitar solo, it's dot 4 dot. You see we can pick it up right in the guitar solo. Flute solo is dot 5 dot. We can play it from right there. So the memory locations are really helpful for navigating. So let's take a listen to the drums. Now I've got these are all in ordered, and I made a group, which is my drum kit, right? So if it's right down here, drum kit. And if I activate it by clicking on this, they all get lit. And then if you highlight it, then everything you do to one will happen to all of them. So I don't want to have that happen. Hit the Option key. So I have a master, drum master, where all the drums are coming through, and that's an AUX input. And then additionally, I've got a VCA. And we went over VCA in Audio MIDI 2. So those of you that don't know what a VCA is yet, that are in Audio MIDI 1, a VCA is a track. It's like a volume control for a bunch of tracks that you assign to it. So let's say I've created a group of drums. I make a VCA, and then I assign the VCA to control the drum kit. See, I can have all these other guys, the drum kit, and then anything I do here will get, volume-wise, will get affected here. So that's good for mixing the entire drum kit. But what also it's great for is if I click on S, it will solo the drum kit. So it's a great way to solo things. And we've gone over this before in Audio MIDI 2. All right, so let's take a look at how the drum kit is set up. So we've got kick drum, right here. And let's look at the processing. So he has this EQP1A, which is a Pultec style. This exists in Logic and in Pro Tools with the paid version of Pro Tools. So basically, this is just like we're just bringing up the low frequency here, 30 around, at 30 hertz, right? We're just boosting it. And I'm going to turn these off and turn them on one at a time. So this is the kick drum with no processing. We'll turn this one back on. So the sound difference is it goes boom, boom with it on, and with it off it goes eh, eh. That's how I hear it, right? Eh, eh, eh. On, boom. Now this here is an EQ, and we're dipping some mid-range out of this. So we're getting the woof from the low end and then the snap of the high end and bringing down the mid-range, clearing up some space for some other instruments. And then there's a multi-band compressor on that, just keeping the sound completely, really even. So what a multi-band compressor does is you can set, this one has 4 bands, and you could set each one of these bands, 1, 2, 3, 4, to have a different kind of compression. So a different threshold, a different ratio, a different range, attack, and all that stuff for each one of these. But what's cool about this is you could solo like the different. So that's the low frequencies. That's this band here. So you can hear the different components of the sound. And that's this up here. Very, very quiet. So if I bypass so that's kind of cool. Then we have a cross stick, which is you have the drumstick go parallel to the snare drum, and you use it to hit the metal rim on the snare drum. You've all heard that sound before. And that's going through this compressor. This is similar to in Pro Tools. It's similar to this one. We've worked with this before. And then we've got some hi-hats. So let me turn off this. You can see we're using the EQ37 band. I'll bypass this. It's very dull, and there's a lot of low frequency information in there that we don't need. I'll turn it back on. So you see that really cutting out that low frequencies. Anything below, like, let's see, 200 hertz. Yeah. So the stick, and the cross, and the kick drum, and the hi-hats. Now, I programmed these, right? Hear the accents on the hi-hat? Right? Brings life to it. Tom-toms. Big, right? Let's turn off the processing. Boom, 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 boom. There's a pitch, boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. With all this stuff in, it changes pitch. Right? It not changes pitch, but it changes timbre. But it's more. That'll cut through more and still be big. So how are we doing that? Well, the first thing is that we've got this Fairchild compressor. And there's a version of this in Pro Tools. In Avid, this is the problem with having so many. Fairchild 670. So this is the similar one in Avid, right? It's just this is one of the first modeled versions. So it's not quite as good as the Fairchild from UA, but it's still pretty good. So let's turn it back, turn it on. So it definitely is coloring the sound. You put something through here to get the compression, but also the original unit had something like 40 tubes in it. So it saturates the sound a little bit. Let's do this. Bypass. Bypass. Right, it's subtle, but I can hear it with my headphones. It sounds fatter with this in. Again, with the EQ, and just dipping out some of that mid-range and some of the very lower stuff, and then adding some snap up here. Bypass. Right, it's definitely snappier. That will cut through. And again, we're adding this compression afterwards, just to smooth out everything, the multi-band compressor. You see how each one of these bands reacts differently to the sound. And that will really cut through. Let's hear that with the rest of the drum kit. And then there's some ride cymbal here. Ride and crash. And that, again, some high frequency sheen and cutting out all the low frequencies because we don't need them when it's in a thick track. So let's go down and listen to the bass with the drum. I went through all those plugins, Sean. They're Universal Audio, a lot of them. Right? And then some of them are Waves, like the C4 is from Waves. This one is the one that comes with Pro Tools. This one is from Universal Audio. This one is from Fab Filter. They make incredible plugins, Fab Filter. Very expensive, but you know what I do is I wait till they go on sale. Oh, for the MIDI drums itself, don't remember. Might be Easy Drummer. I don't remember, to be honest with you. You know, this song started its life out as the demo for the main titles music for a documentary I was working for Oprah on, like in 2012 or 13. It was about her girls' school in South Africa, and they wanted something. I ended up, I wrote this. They didn't like it, so I did another one, which they took, and it meant I ended up with this after the fact as a track, and then I reworked it and spread it out. So I don't remember what I was using for drums back in 2013, and that's what these tracks are taken from. But it might be Easy Drummer. Okay, and the bass and the... Now notice with the bass programming, there's a lot of space. Right? All this space. All right, so the bass doesn't have to play all the time, everywhere, all the way through, you know? Space. But let's solo the bass, and let's look at all these different plugins. So this is the naked bass sound. Kind of So there's another Sound Toys. It's another company I like, and they make this thing called Radiator, or Radiator, as I like to call it. Just adds a little girth, you know, a little distortion. And now, we went over earlier in the class how distortion can help a sound, right? We went earlier in the semester, we did a whole class on distortion, or part of a class on distortion. So I'm a big believer in this. LA2A is an optical compressor. This is also made by Universal Audio. Most used bass compressor in the history of the world. And we have this in something like this in our Avid. The BF2A is supposed to be. And again, with this Pro, just to add, now this is going to add a lot. We're adding a lot up here or in the like 1K area because there's nothing there. And that'll just cut through. And then again, I put these C4s on everything just to smooth it out. All right, so let's go back up here. And then there's all these hand drums, percussion. There's a shaker. And then there's me clapping. I just have some EQ here, getting rid of the low frequencies. That's C4 again to smooth things out. And then this one, I actually inserted a plate plug-in. This is, again, but you could use Deverb, the plate, on this. I don't typically do this, but this was only going to be used for these instruments here, so I put it inserted it in the path. You can hear when the EQ is in that the slap is a little more pronounced. And the plate just really adds a nice... And that fits in beautifully with the drums. So you got to make sure that all these things fit in together. Okay, so then there's these tracks here, which are these ethnic groove instruments, right? So this is called a jili. It's an African mallet instrument with resonating gourds underneath it. Big at Lion King. They have a bunch of these in the pit there. And then this is this weird ethnic guitar groove. Right, and then there's mallets on the left. Right, more geelies and marimbas. And on the right, same, a little bit more activity together with the geely and with the groove. Percussion and drum kit. You see what kind of, all these guys are not playing anything difficult, but everything fits together in the arrangement like a glove, right? It all works together. And that's something that I really take pride in putting together in music like this. And let's add our bass. Now you know the reason why I left so much space in the bass, because there's all this other action going on. All right, now we've got some guitars. Right, 2 rhythm guitar tracks. See how they fit in? All fits in. So what I'm doing here is something that I want to impart upon you when you've got a session with lots of instruments, is that the way I've got these things grouped out with all these VCA masters is that I can quickly listen to what the guitar and what those ethnic groove instruments sound like together. I can listen to the guitar and the bass. I can listen to the bass and the drums. I can listen to the guitar and the piano, right? I can listen to all these things and see how all the different components fit together to make sure that there is no clashing and that things are fitting together as I want them to, right? That's a really important thing, and why setting up groups like this with VCA masters where you can quickly solo something, and you could do it with something called folders. I think they've got folder tracks or folder stacks or something like that in Logic, similar idea. And so organizing your session is so important to the success of your mix and the proper imparting of the composition that you've written to your audience. All of the technical things before you start mixing, of setting stuff up, makes it easier for you in the long run. It's boring at beginning, but in the long run, it makes a better product, you know? And I've gone over this with you in Audio MIDI 1, Audio MIDI 2, and just reviewing this with you now about the importance of track organization and having whatever you can do to help your mix, right? Because if there's an issue somewhere, I can quickly solo all the different food groups of instruments and see where that lives, or I can play things against each other, right? So for example, if I want to hear that the drums, that the bass and the guitars are not clashing, I can, no problem. Why? Because I'm only playing the 3 or 4 highest pitched strings of the guitar, so there's no noise down where the bass lives. Okay, so then I've got the piano on many tracks here, right? So I've got like the piano at the beginning. Very bright piano sound, brighter than I'm used to, brighter than I like. But the reason I do that is because there's so much going on. It needs to cut through. And then I've got the flutes. This is my friend Dave Weiss. He plays at the Lion King. We've been friends for 30 years. We did Miss Saigon together. He's a great ethnic flute player. He's playing a little wooden flute. Now, he solos over here, right? Right, starting right here. So I love that, but I wanted to do something that was a little bit... Dave is one of the best ethnic flute players in the world. I mean, he's definitely, he works like a dog playing on jingles, movie scores, full-time in Lion King, If he was living in Los Angeles, he'd be a first call film score, film ethnic flute player for film. And, you give him like a little Chinese bamboo flute and he can play giant steps on it. He's just really amazing. Anyway, what I did was I transcribed what he played and I doubled it with a sample of that I played in of something called a fula, which is an African flute. Right? So the two of them together. So that's kind of cool. Even like this part is the melody that I wrote, so that wasn't so difficult. But right here I had transcribed his solo. Yeah, so it's kind of cool. There's some notes on that aren't on the fula that he was playing, because it's got the authentic tuning on it. So I had to like do a little bit different. So in this section here, it's almost like there's harmonies being played. And like if I were to play the piano there. Oh, my guitar solo here. So my piano part there, the chords and the rhythm I'm playing there is like, it's not big fat chords. It's like almost like a muted guitar part played on the piano or like a kalimba part played on the piano. And the reason I do that is because it fits in with the guitars. Right? And it fits in with all these ethnic percussion things. Notice that with all that activity going on, you can hear every instrument. And that's like the hallmark of a good arrangement and a great mix, right? So I did a lot of this mix, but then my friend Ken, who I hired to mix many things, he comes in and the last 20% makes it 5 times better. And I learn a lot from getting that. And I get these sessions and I get to study them. So that's cool. All right. And then there's the last bit here is there's strings. There's a choir. We need something sustaining, right? There's a Glock coming in, right? So that the choir's playing that melody, and so is the piano right there. Right? Nice. And then there's strings that come in there as well. Strings coming in, and Glock. Right? So I have that opening statement, da, 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 that on the piano, and then the last time before the end of the verse, it all gets doubled with these other instruments. So in other words, we've got starting from right here, right, melody, piano, piano. It's a question and answer melody, right? Now the last time through, right? And then this time through, doubled by the flutes. And the flute comes in on that little riff on the hook there. Now I'm playing it back and forth with the flute. Yeah, I'm in the pentatonic groove right here. I've got a bad case of pentatonia. Just kidding. All right, so then, then there's this bit here. Don't even ask me what I did with this. This is a piece of audio I had. Let me turn off all of the plugins. Right? So then I've got this thing, air. We use this in Pro Tools, TalkBox. Right? Then we've got the kill EQ. So I've gotten rid of the high frequencies, I believe. No, I've gotten rid of the mid and the low. It's just the high frequencies in there, right? And then I use some tune to tune it, auto tune to tune it, or waves tune. And then I add some delay, just a quarter note delay here. And then reverb. Right, it's subtle. If it wasn't in there, you'd miss it. But it just adds this thing in the background, like what's going on there. Okay, so this is how I'm leaving this session. I started right before the band comes in. Yeah.